our series called Giant.
Yeah, in this series, we're going to learn some big lessons from one of the coolest stories in the Bible, David and Goliath.
That's right. We find the story in the Bible in 1 Samuel chapter 17. David was a young boy who had a huge giant to defeat. That giant's name was Goliath.
And what a giant he was. He was over 9 feet tall.
9 feet tall? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm serious.
Man, that is tall. That is like 2 times as tall as me. What's up, James? What's up? How's the weather up there?
Okay, we get it.
But for real though, 9 feet tall? That's huge. That's like 22 Snicker bars stacked on top of each other.
Can you please pay attention?
Okay, I'm sorry. You were saying?
I was saying that there was a giant named Goliath who was threatening the entire army of Israel. He was mean, scary, and huge.
Yeah, the Israelite army sure had a giant problem.
They sure did.
Kids, have you ever had a giant problem? You know, a problem that was way bigger than you and you felt totally helpless?
Well, a good friend of ours definitely has a giant problem. His name is Evan.
Evan is a really nice kid who has lots of friends, but he has one giant problem. His problem has a name too, Rusty.
Rusty is the school bully. He picks on Evan every day on the playground. It doesn't matter what Evan does to try to avoid Rusty. Rusty is always there to pick on him.
Yeah, the other day, Evan and his friends were playing soccer. Rusty walked up, grabbed the ball, then kicked it over the fence out into the street. How mean is that?
No kidding. It looks like Evan has a giant bully problem.
Kids, do you have a giant problem? I don't necessarily mean a bully picking on you, but a giant problem that you have standing in your way.
Maybe your giant isn't a bully, but it's problems in your family, or maybe sadness, loneliness, or worry. It might even be a sinful habit that you have, like lying, stealing, or talking bad about other people.
Lots of kids have giant problems in their lives that seem to be holding them back from what God wants them to be.
In this series, we're going to learn how to face the giants in our lives and defeat them. We can't do it on our own. We need God's help. The giants in our lives may be big, but our God is bigger.
And that brings us to today's big idea. Today's big idea says, my giant may be big, but my God is bigger.
So every time today that you hear this sound,
Hey, what's the big idea?
stand up to your feet and say,
My giant may be big, but my God is bigger.
and that's today's big idea.
Well, I know you're going to enjoy our lesson today. We're going to meet the giant Goliath and learn some very important truths that we need to always remember about giants.
So until next time, I'm Robin.
And I'm James.
And we'll see you next time on Giant.
It's me, tomfoolery. In case you couldn't tell by the jingle, I'm tomfoolery. Ooh. Anyway, I have a jingle and you don't have a jingle. I'm here to tell you all about this series called Giant. Hey, by the way, does anybody have the time? Wait a minute, I do. With my giant wristwatch. Isn't that amazing, kids? I'm here to tell you all about today's power verse. So watch me do it. Today's power verse says, if God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Man, that was a great power verse. I want all of my boys to stand up on their giant feet and say it with me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Way to go, boys. Have a seat, have a seat. Girls, stand up on your feet and say the power verse with me now. 1, 2, 3. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Way to go, girls. Have a seat, have a seat. Cheers. Isn't it amazing to know that when we face some giants in our life, that we don't have to do it alone? know God is on our side. So with that said, I want my boys and my girls to get up on their giant feet and say the power verse together on the count of 3. 1, 3. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Have a seat, have a seat. Sorry about the little tomfoolery with the 1 and the 3. Well, it's time for me to go, but before, I want to leave you with this. Jack and Jill went up a hill to fetch a pail of water, and they were really, really tired when they got to the top. Bye now.
Hi, Sprouts. We are starting a new series starting today. It is called Giant. And so y'all should have just watched the video. And so now we are going to do the lesson plan. Okay? It says today we are beginning an amazing series about one of the most famous stories in the Bible. I don't want to assume that any of you know all the details, so I want to start way at the very beginning. We find the story in 1 Samuel chapter 17, beginning with verse 3. So the Philistines and Israelites faced each other on opposite hills, with the valley between them. Then Goliath, a Philistine champion from Gath, came out of the Philistine ranks to face the forces of Israel. He was a giant of a man, measuring over 9 feet tall. He wore a bronze helmet and a coat of mail that weighed 125 pounds. He also wore bronze leggings, and he slung a bronze javelin over his back. The shaft of his spear was as heavy and thick as a weaver's beam, tipped with an iron spearhead that weighed 15 pounds. An armor bearer walked ahead of him carrying a huge shield. Wow. Can you believe it? This guy was over 9 feet tall. Can you imagine having to face someone that was over 9 feet tall? To make things worse, he was not on the side of God's people, the Israelites. He was on the side of their enemy, the Philistines. This giant, Goliath, did not have good things planned for the Israelite army either. Goliath stood and shouted across to the Israelites, "Do you need a whole army to settle this? Choose someone to fight for you, and I will represent the Philistines. We will settle this dispute in single combat. If your man is able to kill me, then we will be your slaves. But if I kill him, you will be our slaves. I defy the armies of Israel. Send me a man who will fight for me." When Saul and the Israelites heard this, they were terrified and deeply shaken. You can understand why they were scared. This wasn't just an enemy, it was a giant enemy. It was a giant enemy that was determined to destroy them. You can understand why they were terrified and deeply shaken. It's the same with the giants in our lives. What are the giants in our lives, you ask? I'm glad you did. A giant in your life is a problem that is bigger than you. For some of you, your giant is a sinful habit that you have been battling for a long time, like lying, stealing, talking bad about other people, or maybe even cussing or smoking. For others of you, your giant is a difficult problem that seems to hold you down for a long time, like loneliness or sadness or stress or feeling like you are a failure. Everyone will face a giant in their life at some time or another. It's different for every person and it happens at different points in everyone's life. A giant is a problem that we face that just seems way too big for us to defeat because it is much bigger than we are. As long as you are living for God, you have someone on your side that is bigger than your giant, bigger than the giant problem that you face. Like we learned our big idea this week. My problem may be big, but my God is bigger. If you have God on your side, you have nothing to fear. If you are not living for God, then your problems seem huge. They seem like there is no way you could ever defeat them. Problems in life seem hopelessly huge when you are not following God. But when you are following God, He will help you defeat any giant that comes your way. Sadly, many people don't understand that. At least it seems like they don't understand that because they refuse to face their giant problems. They just ignore them, hoping they will go away. But here is something important we must realize. The Israelites had been watching Goliath come out and threaten them for weeks and weeks. They probably figured if they just ignored him, then maybe he will get tired of bothering them and eventually go away. But that didn't happen. Goliath kept coming out there every day, day after day after day, screaming and yelling and threatening the entire Israel. He was not going to go away until someone faced him and defeated him. It's the same way that our giant problems, they don't just disappear or go away if we ignore them. The giant of lying will only get worse if we don't do anything about it. The giant of sadness and holiness will only get worse if we ignore it. It doesn't get better. It only gets worse. That's the way giants are. There's only one way to get rid of a giant problem in your life. Take on the giants with God's help. You don't have what it takes to take on your giant problem on your own. But if you are following God, then you have His power inside of you. And take the power verse thought for today. If God is for us, who can be against us? With God's help, you can take on your giant and defeat it. Okay, we will see you next week. Have a good day.
This is SKI to the WTLES. I'm here to wrap it up. Giant. Goliath was his name. He tried to put the Israelite army to shame. He wanted to enslave them. He wanted them to hurt. He wanted to destroy them and put them in the dirt. But giants like that, you don't have to be scared. Put your faith in God. Your prayers will be heard. Come with all of God's power and vigor. Your giant may be big, but your God is bigger, baby. That's right. I tell you one thing right now. There are giants in your life, and you gotta take them on. But you can take them on when you know God's on your side. I got a rainbow flavor, and I'm living for a savior. Skittles out, baby.